Kia ora and welcome to the final chapter in this resource, Learning, the Future of Learning. And so in this resource we have introduced a whole raft of new ideas and concepts around how the brain learns, about what we do with that in terms of learning process, how we unpack the competencies to ensure that learners can have agency over that, how we can assess that, how we can drive that forward, and how we can better meet our purpose. And our purpose is really a complex thing now. It's getting more complex, and it's no longer sort of 3 words or 5 words or 7 words. And the intent of these resources that we've produced is to put in place a global curriculum. So the 3 resources all come together to form what in essence is the new curriculum. And because the concepts are context free, any country, anywhere in the world, any city in any country, anywhere in the world, any town or village in any country, any place in the world can actually use this resource because there's no context. We're not saying you need to study the seashore or the desert. We're saying choose your context but look at an environment. And so they're context free. You have to supply the context, and you will know the contexts that are best suited to your learners, because what we need with learners when they come into context, especially the first ones they choose, they must be safe. And we get back to the driving metaphor. The driving metaphor, when we start learning to drive, we do not start with inclines like this and let's do a hill start on a really steep incline in the central business district. We just wouldn't do that to anyone. We give them a context where they have the language and some experiences that we can start with, where they have confidence in that to begin with. So we choose contexts that they're aware of. If you're working with young learners, then the context they're aware of is themselves. They're literally unaware of what happens to the rest of the people around them and the rest of the world. The context has to be about them to begin with. Then it's them and their friends. Then it's them and their classroom. Then them and their parents, caregivers, communities, etc. We do not start with the Romans. It's a context that they cannot possibly understand and have no language around that to begin with. We have to start with language they already have and experiences they've already had. And that varies and changes from town to village to city to country to state, whatever it might be. So this resource, these 3 resources, all combine together to do that. In most cases, the curriculum that we've presented here fits in with your national curriculum. Right? You can teach this curriculum and fulfill the outcomes of your national curriculum. That can be done. You'll need to do that and moderate what you do, and you'll have to spend some time thinking about how you're going to do that. But in most cases, all these concepts here are endemic in every single curriculum around the world. They just haven't been elicited so clearly through concepts than what we've got here. So last century, as an educator, we had a different mandate. In this century, we're no longer locked into that stereotype set of norms and expectations that most people had, and most people conform to those norms. We became someone else. We became someone wanted us to be. In this century, those rules have been rewritten, and we will struggle with the newfound freedom, at least initially. You'll really struggle coming to terms with what that looks like in your world, having that freedom. And young people are growing up in that world, and it's a fantastic world to grow up in when you're not confined and restrained. Once we find our feet and view ourselves as a global community, rather than a set of discrete countries, only then do we really have the possibility for equity across our ever-spinning orb that we call planet Earth. We all live on the same planet, and we all interact with each other. We all trade globally now. And now we've got to think globally, and we've also got to educate globally. And that's a really big difference. We stare at wonder, we think things around us, we see things that are conceived, and the journey that the child goes through to get to where they are now, it's all different. They all had different experiences. The child now has to make sense of their world. They immediately begin to start making sense of the world and their place in it. This is our challenge as educators, is to challenge the child to make sense of their world. We cannot stop the natural disasters that befall us, but we can stop the man-made ones. We have a responsibility to each other. But this requires a global perspective and a global governance that has the authority to provide the rights that some now enjoy to everyone, no matter where they are on the planet. Yes, we have the rights, but we earn those rights by attending to our individual and corporate responsibilities. Young people are very quick to tell me they've got rights. And I said, yeah, that's absolutely right. But you earn those rights through the responsibilities you take to each other. In other words, it's not a one-way ticket. You don't just get rights. The Bill of Rights should always accompany a Bill of Responsibilities. Many countries have a Bill of Rights, but I can't find any countries that have a Bill of Responsibilities. If you want these rights, you earn them through what you do in terms of what you put back into your communities. We all deserve the freedom to become who we are and express ourselves in ways that reflect our uniqueness. But all the while, we must be conscious of our responsibilities to each other. So our final purpose statement. And then through the book, you'll see that through this resource, we have been looking at developing, through the course of the resource, developing our purpose. And I'm going to read this for you. The purpose of this series of global curriculum projects is to embed this culture, to ensure that the education each of us receive empowers us all as learners and as educators with the capability to learn efficiently and effectively via the acquisition of the competencies and the ability to apply the learning process. We need to educate a generation that love the world they're in. They enjoy it. They're fascinated by it. You know, its beauty and its self-sustaining nature, its life support system that surrounds us on a daily basis. We want them fascinated by that. By leveraging our curiosity and our desire to understand, we, as the dominant species on Earth, acknowledge and have to acknowledge our responsibility to respect each other while innovatively and ingeniously solving the challenge that we face every day and leveraging those opportunities, to collectively form a global community. This is our purpose if we wish to learn and satisfy that curiosity that is embedded in all of us. And that's our job as educators. There is no greater job in the world or greater challenge in the world than educating young people. But to do that, we've got to rethink what that purpose is. We have a global responsibility to ourselves and every other species on this planet. How do we outwork that? What does that look like? Yes, you have rights, but you also have responsibilities. What does that look like? So we have to recalibrate our purpose around education. And it has become a much bigger thing. So good luck with that. You're going to need it along the way. This will be a very challenging set of processes to put in place. Our experiences to date tend to tell us it takes about 3 years to go through this process. All the resources are up on the website. You're more than happy to go and just download those and use the ones you see fit. But make sure you adapt them and adjust them to suit your context. Because your context, in your school, in your classroom, with that child, will be unique. All the very best with that, and thank you very much.